Hello and welcome back to Bloodborne. This is part 4 of our Beast Cutter run. And last time we went through the Forbidden Woods and Byrgenwerth, beating those two bosses, ending off here. And this is where we're going to start off this part. So, we have this NPC we can talk to.
What a joy it is to behold the divine. It must be such a pleasure. You're in my debt, you know. You're nigh on a beast of the field. But here you are, treading a measure with the gods.
So, if you don't know what he's rambling on about, don't worry. He has more dialogue, and while I'm not going to talk about it this run, I will explain what he's on about in other runs. Especially the Saw Cleaver run. If you want information, that's when I'm going to lay out everything, or at least as much as I know. But here we get a key for later on in this little area, along with an armor set that we can sell. And even though I'm only doing one armor set per run, or at least I'm not doing one armor set in 2 different runs, I'm still going to pick up as many as I can because they're still good to sell. Like, even if you're not going to use something, you can still use it for currency. So, always good to pick up, even if you're not going to wear it. But over here, with one lantern, we can use that key we picked up. And here there's a room full of enemies, and I've noticed that it's best to leave and let them all tunnel themselves through this doorway, since it's a lot easier to hit multiple, and that way you're not surrounded. And they have an arm attack that goes pretty far, so good to back up when they do that. And as you can see here, the Beast Cutter, really good at crowd control. Like, people say that the Threaded Cane was meant for crowd control. Nah. This is the weapon to go with. But once you clear out most of the enemies, there's usually like 1 or 2 that don't follow you out. But once you clear out most of the room, then you can head on in. And while there's nothing in this room besides enemies, there is a door that leads to a chest. And this will get you Augur of Abritas, which is just another hunter tool, kind of like Beast Roar. And it's not the best, but it's not the worst. So, it has its uses, though we're not going to use it this time. But that's everything in this little section, so now we can head out this door, and that teleports you to the Nightmare Frontier. Now, this is an optional area, and beyond just any normal optional area, this is one of the ones that are probably lesser known. I mean, it's Bloodborne, this community is insane. So, most people know about it, especially because of how long the game has been out, but if someone is going to play through without knowing anything, this is one of the areas they probably have a harder time finding. But that's something new, and we'll get to that. But these things are Lauren Silver Beasts. They are the basic normal enemy of this area, or at least one of the 2. Now that new thing that we killed is kind of like this, but stronger, and they drop better stuff. And I'll talk more about them later on in this area. But something I forgot to mention is after the end of the last section and the beginning of this section, or video, we got 2 different variations of the Beast Cutter. And I forgot about that until this point. And we can talk about what those 2 variations actually do once we take out these 2 hunters. So, jump attacks are pretty good for poise, and I keep forgetting that. But thankfully, he only did it once, and then he dies. Now, this hunter uses the threaded cane. Like I said, most people say that the threaded cane is the crowd control weapon, whereas I think that the Beast Cutter here is the crowd control weapon. And as you can see, I'm definitely doing a great job showing why that is. Maybe I should have gotten a little practice in, but didn't matter too much because they went down. And those are hunters, 1 time only. But the difference between the 3 different Beast Cutter variants is the gems. As you can see, this has normal, normal, triangle. This has normal, normal, like crescent moon. And that's the uncanny. And then the Lost has 1 of each. And so the uncanny and Lost versions are basically just the normal version of the weapon, but with different blood gem slots. So if you have like a really good crescent blood gem, but the normal Beast Cutter doesn't have crescent as triangle, but you don't have any good triangle ones, then that's what that's for. But that rune we picked up is, I believe, for fire damage reduction. Maybe for lightning? I don't really use those runes, but it's definitely for one of those 2. There would be a bell-ringing woman that lets you get invaded if you're playing online, but I don't, so no need for me to worry about that. But if you do play online, you want to go there. But heading through here, we get out of the first section of this area and into the second. And here, there are giants that throw giant rocks at you. So that little skittery guy is supposed to be like a trap to lure you in with the allure of items, and then you take a boulder to the neck. So you want to be careful about that, but these guys aren't too difficult once you get close. Just remember that they do have some poise, at least on some of their attacks, so you can't just R1 spam, unlike most enemies. I mean, you can sometimes, but not as consistently as other enemies. So make sure that you have a bit of stamina when you're going up against them, just in case you need to roll. Now, here, personally, I run past that enemy to go after this enemy, because if you fight the Silver Beast, then the troll, giant, whatever you want to call them, likes to throw boulders at you. But you can take both of them out, not too much trouble, and then you can head down after they're dead to pick up the items. But once you clear this little section out, then you can head on over here, and there are 3 ways to go here. And the first way is just to beeline forward, because this little rock stone pillar thing drops down once you stand on it, and that creates a shortcut. Now, these little skittery guys, once you kill them, they're one-time enemies, and they drop upgrade materials. These things, which are new to this area, are a stronger version of them. As you can see, they can actually attack you. But even though they can attack you, they give better upgrade materials, which makes them worth it, because they aren't much of a threat. So, good to go after them when you can. And here we have patches. In this game, they're a spider. And they're up to their usual patches shenanigans. So, we're not gonna go through that. I normally do, but not this run. But here we get clockwise metamorphosis, which gives you 10% more HP. Like I said, you could find the 5% one in the Forbidden Woods, and I showed where to get that last time. But here we take out that enemy because if you leave them alive, they will throw rocks at you. And coming up here, there's an item. We're gonna skip that for now because there's a little skittery guy who runs away. So we kill them before getting all the items. But moving on down, on this little overpass, there's a madman's knowledge and some enemies. So we can take these little guys out. And these guys are a little unique in the sense that the items that they drop are actually poppable cold blood. So they give you blood echoes, and then you can get blood echoes as a droppable item from them. And that thing we just picked up is a rapid poison resistance, which almost does not exist in this game. Weirdly enough. Like, I don't think I've ever been hit with a rapid poison. There's, I think, like 2 enemies in the entire game that can proc it, and it's very easy to avoid. So, I'm not entirely sure why it even exists, because you just don't get hit with it. Now here, there's more stuff back there, and I normally go for it, but I decided against that this time. Not entirely sure why. I think I just wasn't really in the mood to deal with that at the time. But coming down here, there's another new enemy. Which, these things are lovely. You want to have sedatives for them. But they have a chance to drop cursed blood gems. And this thing, you want to be careful. Because this is another one of the harder ones, but it gives you 2 chunks. But because it can swing and hit you, it can knock you off the side of the cliff and kill you. And you can also knock it off the side of the cliff and kill it. So, yeah, just be careful with that one. Because chunks are very rare and useful, but there's also a cliff. But hopefully you can get that one, and then we can continue on. And over here, you can make a little jump. And off, like forward, slightly off to the right there, there's an entire other section that we're not going to deal with this time. But there is a thing over there. Now you can just roll over there and forwards, and you'll get out of the poison. But I'm going to roll over here and get a right, because there's another one of these harder things. One of the more difficult skittery guys, because they give another 2 chunks. And like I said, those little alien enemies can drop cold blood. But over off to the left, there's a boss. And considering you just got chunks, you probably don't want to take on a boss right away because you can get some upgrades. And so over here, past this Lorne Silver Beast, all the way up here, there is an elevator. And taking this up brings you back to the very beginning of the area. Right back where you found the lamp. But we're not gonna go level up and upgrade our weapon and all that because that would make things easier. And I'm not here to make things easy. I'm here to take a very powerful weapon and use that as a crutch. At least this run. Can't do that every run because not all the weapons are good, but did we just hit them and did no damage? I'm not sure what that was about, but okay. But here, as you can see, it's kind of hard to hit the boss because they're high up in the air, and our weapon doesn't go very high. But this weapon does have a second form, which I'm not using because, again, I'm not here to make things easy. I'm here to use strong weapons as a crutch. Again, at least this one. But this weapon does have a second form, and having a weapon that can swing vertically is very useful. Unless you're like me, you can't hit anything. I don't know if this is like me misjudging how the weapon hits, or me being too used to the assault cleaver, or what, but I've noticed there's a few where I just cannot hit with this weapon for the life of me. I think it happened later in this part as well, with another boss. Like I said, doing these voice recordings after the fact because PlayStation does not like my life. Again, I will try to fix that after this run, starting next run, but for now, this is what we got. And that's Amygdala down, and that gets us another chalice. So, we got that. And I might do Ailing Loran chalice as like the one chalice for this run, because I've done most of them without recording because I don't want to have too much fluff, but Ailing Loran seems like it would fit this character, so might do that. But with that gotten, we can head back to the dream, and we need 4 cold blood flower bud. Okay. I think you get that by purchasing it with Insight, but I'm not 100% sure on that, because I don't know where else you would get it. But here, yeah, that was fire that we got earlier on in the section. And as you can see, the 10% increase to health is nothing. It's very, very little health, which is why I prefer the stamina increases. And also, like I said, I did a lot of the chalices without recording because I personally find the chalices to be pretty fun, but I don't want too much fluff.
Very well.
So I'm only gonna do like 1 to 2 per run. Except for maybe the saw cleaver, because I love that weapon to death. But with everything done here, we can head back to the Cathedral Ward, because there's some stuff to do here.
Oh, there you are. Forgive me, I'm a bit out of sorts. So, no blood today, I'm afraid.
So she's not feeling good. Granny looks to be doing good, but don't talk to her because... But the reason why we're here is because once you beat Rom and activate the Blood Moon, then if you go back to the Vicar Amelia boss fight, there will be some new content for you to see, especially if you've been doing Eileen's quest up to this point.
Oh. Is that you again? I'm afraid I've made a bit of a blunder. I'm just going to have a short rest. No, don't worry. I've taken blood. Enough to save an old woman. No more dreams for me. This is my last chance. What a fool I am. I'll have to tread carefully, but that thing still lies in wait. Turn back. This is my score to settle.
So, up here is the Bloody Crow of Cainhurst. And as you can see, there's a lot of blood. And this is pretty widely considered to be the most difficult hunter fight in Bloodborne. And they pop a hunter tool, which allows them to roll in quick step faster. And as you can see, they have a lot of health. Like, they have as much health as a full-on boss, like Amygdala just fought. And as you can see, they also have a katana, which is a weapon that you can get. It's pretty neat. Though, its alternate form makes you take damage very slowly. And as you can see, it also does a lot of damage. But a little piece of advice is whenever they go into that alternate form, try to make them hold it as long as possible. Also, their gun does a lot of damage. But whenever they go into their alternate form, try to make them stay in it as long as possible, since it helps you take down their health bar. And again, their gun does a lot of damage. And that's part of why they're considered to be the most difficult fight. Because their gun, if you don't have a very good build, can full on one-shot you. And so their gun does a lot of damage, their weapon does a lot of damage, they have a lot of health, they have infinite bullets, they have a hunter tool. Just, in general, they have a lot going for them. And yeah, it's kind of like an endurance fight, and I ran into that like an idiot. But it's kind of like the fire giant in Elden Ring, where it's kind of like an endurance fight because they have so much health, but it's also kind of like a glass cannon fight where they do a lot of damage. And so the fight goes on a long time because of how much health they have, but it can also end at any time because they can one-shot you. And so it's like the worst of both worlds, and I walked into that again. And if you don't know what that is, let's back up here for a minute. It's a consumable item that nullifies your healing. So if you try to heal, you get a funny little animation. And I don't think I showed it here, but you get a funny little animation and you just aren't allowed to heal. But if you back up out of those doors they won't follow you out. And so, because of that, if you can survive and get out, then you'll be safe. And so that is a good way to like just keep yourself alive if you're at low health, or if you get hit with that consumable item. But just be safe. This is a very difficult fight, but I believe in you. You got this. But killing them gets you a rune that gives you 300 HP back upon getting a visceral.
Don't you ever listen to your elders? No matter. You did save my life. I don't seem to be apt for this life anymore. My glory days were long ago now. I know. Here. For you. This too is hunter's work. But it bears no honor. A burden you may choose to carry. The decision is yours alone. Oh. My eyes grow heavy. Let me rest a while. I'll be fine. Just wait.
And that is the end of Eileen's quest. Doing that gets you the Crow Hunter badge, which allows you to get her armor set and weapon. And it also gets you the Hunter Oath, which is kind of like a rune, but it has its own special slot, which is neat. And they're also kind of like the Covenants of Bloodborne. There's, I believe, 6 of them in total. But with that being said, we can head back to the Dream and then head over to the Forbidden Woods. Because over here, this is where we got the Tonsil Stone and the White Church set, if that helps you remember. But when we went through here before, I pointed out this cave, but didn't go in it. Because we didn't have a lot of time. But here, we do have the time, at least for right now. And we need to go here to go to the next area I want to go to, so ignoring this area, just stick to the right side and ignore everything in this room. I promise you, it is not worth it. But you go through all that and you'll find a ladder, and this is the largest ladder in the game, which leads to the second largest ladder in the game. So we're just gonna skip all that because it's like a minute and a half of climbing. And that brings you here. You pull that lever and that gets you a shortcut. So that way you don't have to do all that running anymore. In case you die or want to come back here. There's an enemy, we're going to ignore them. We are going to ignore them and climb the ladder and not worry about it. And we're just gonna move on. And I was kind of rushing here. Not really for any particular reason, I just didn't really feel like going through here at the moment. But this is what happens to NPCs if you send them to your Septive clinic. So, yeah. But that was the bad NPC, we don't like them, so no bad feelings about that. But here you can get 3 more blood vials if you want that as a rune. And over here to the left, if you come here before the blood moon, then you'll get some dialogue and a hunter fight. But if you come here after the blood moon, then you'll get this little interaction.
God, I'm nauseous. Have you felt this? It's progressing. I can see things. I knew it. I'm different. I'm no beast. Oh, God, it feels awful. But it proves that I'm chosen. Don't you see how they writhe inside my head? It's rather...
And killing them gets you a third of the umbilical cord, which we're going to need for a boss later on. But for now, we got that, and then we can head down here and all the way to the end of the hallway for the actual reason we came here. See, this here through the door is the first room we spawned in. And this is the table where we woke up. And here now we get the Cainhurst summons. And this, they usually aren't violent. If you stand near them long enough, they will, but if you know what they are and who they are, you know they're not an enemy. And if you don't know, don't worry about it. I'll explain it in the Saw Cleaver run. For now that we have the Cainhurst summons, we can head back to Hemwick Lane. And it's easier to start at the end of the area, where we killed the boss, because it is closer to where we need to be. But we're just gonna head out and head down and kill all the enemies, because if you leave any enemies alive, like for what's about to happen, bad things can happen, and it can ruin your chances to get into the area. So, seeing as we want to actually make it into the area, gotta kill all the enemies. And again, Cainhurst summons, and this blue statue obelisk thing. And going to that gets you a cutscene. Welcome to Forsaken Castle Cainhurst. And out of every area in the game, if you're doing a first playthrough, and you don't look anything up, and you don't know anything, this is probably going to be the most missed area. Which is kind of sad, because this is a very nice area. But it does have some interesting enemies. Especially here in the beginning. Now, these little tapeworm things down here are entirely avoidable. I'm just coming down here because there's a blood gem at the end of all this. So, these things can definitely be a pain. Especially if you have a thrusting weapon or a slow weapon. Since they tend to do this jumping attack right after getting hit. And they also have tiny hitboxes that are almost impossible to hit if you weren't locked onto them, or have a wide sweeping weapon like this. Like, trying to fight these things with like a rifle spear is pain. So like, especially the Reiterperlash, however you pronounce that. But, like I said, entirely avoidable. I'm just coming down here because there's an item, and I want it. But, if you don't care about this blood gem, you don't have to come down here. Because that's all that's down there. But once you get that, then you can head down this main pathway. And there's a lot of these enemies. And if you have trouble with these things, because apparently a lot of people find them pretty difficult, you can hit it inside of here, and as you can see, they do a decent chunk of damage. But they can't make it inside. Like, they can't make it through this door. But a lot of weapons can hit through the door. And so, yeah. Just, if you want to take them out but you're having trouble, that's a good, pretty consistent strategy. The hardest part about it is getting them back to the door, honestly. And don't worry if they disappear, because that's just a loading thing, I guess you could call it. It's not something you see a lot in Bloodborne. It's actually very rare to see in Bloodborne, but it happens there. So just, if you don't see them, don't worry about it. Just give the game a second. Let them get close. And for this one specifically, they like to get trapped on this statue and the rock. So you don't even need to lure them back to the door, which is neat. And for this big one, they don't even attack you. They just turn around and put their butt to you. And so you don't need to worry about them. Though once you get inside, the types of enemies change. You can probably see it. It moves over from beasts to more humanoid enemies. At least for now. But these ghost women have quite a lot of health. At least compared to those guys. And if you don't have good blood gems, or if you haven't upgraded your weapon a lot, I found that it can sometimes take an entire stamina bar to take one of them out. And so that might make you think they're scary. Weapon, by the way. But that might give you the perception that they're scary, but they're honestly not bad at all. Or at least not difficult. Because it's very easy to just stun lock them, and they have very little range. So they're not much of a threat. So just go through, and honestly they're pretty slow as well. Bloodstone chunk. But if you don't feel like killing them, then you can just run past them. It's not a big deal. But I like to kill them because they give a decent chunk of souls. As you can see, they're 539. And these things are everywhere. So if you go through this entire area, like killing all the enemies, you get like 30 to 50,000 souls. Depending on if you go through one certain section. But here, don't let the bright room fool you. There will be more. And it's good to turn around because forward, as you can see, there's 3 of them. Whereas backwards, there's only 1. And so, turning back and killing that one allows you an easy escape route if things don't go well. But again, they're not big threats. Especially not when there's only one. But over here and to the right, there's a chest protected by one of them. And inside this chest, we have another outfit. It's only one piece, and depending on who you ask, there can be 1, 2, or 3 pieces to that set, all found in different locations. So, yeah. But, new enemy. And having eye, like the eye rune on, is pretty good for these enemies because they can drop chunks. Now, it is very, very rare, so don't get your hopes up. And they mostly drop twin bloodstone shards, if anything. So, like I said, don't get your hopes up, but there's a chance that they can drop them. And you don't need to kill any of these guys because they're also pretty slow. But they have 1,000 souls, or blood echoes. And like I said, they can drop chunks, so even though you don't need to kill them, just like with the ghost women, it's usually a good idea. Though, you can run past it if you want. This thing, unlike all the other enemies, I would suggest running past that guy. At least most of the time, because they're very fast and have a surprisingly good range. And they can definitely be a threat. Certainly much more of a threat than any of the other enemies. But taking out these 2 gargoyles, you get the Executioner set. You don't get the helmet right away. You can get that later. But don't grab that chest. But the Executioner set is very good. It's one of my favorites. But in this room there's a ton of enemies. And one of those little servant guys. But this one has a blow dart. And if you get shot with the blow dart, then the ghost women get very angry. And they become much faster and more aggressive. And so you want to beeline it for the dart guy and kill him as soon as possible. Though, if you do get shot, standing at the end of the staircase is pretty good because it keeps you out of his line of sight while letting you take out the ghost women through this little funnel. And so that can be very good. But there's a few more enemies in this room. If you want to take them out, you can. Especially if they aggro onto you. Because, I mean, if they're coming to you, you might as well kill them. But up the staircase, you can drop down onto this and grab the Evelyn, which is a very, very good gun. It is wonderful for blood tinge builds. But you may have noticed that I didn't actually open the chest. I kind of did a little animation skip. And that's something you can do when dropping down. There's another chest later on in this area that you can do it with as well. Though the other chest it's harder to do. But here, this is another one of those enemies I said it's better to skip. Though, can't really skip these ones. Bloodstone chunk. But it's a lot harder to skip these ones because there's an enemy in this room that you need to kill. Now going up here and a little forward and to the left, back and left now, there is a window that you can drop down out of. And so if you want, like if you really want to skip this room, you can. But like I said, there's an enemy that you really want to kill in here. And so it's this enemy, by the way. You want to kill him for something later. But if you're willing to let him shoot you freely, then you can just run through with this window and skip all those enemies. But out here, there's another 2 gargoyles. And while it may seem like you shouldn't be here because of the whole dropping out of the window and onto those like small sections, I promise you are supposed to be here. You can tell because there are enemies. And if you weren't supposed to be here, there wouldn't be enemies here, now would there? Though here you run into a new enemy variant, and I didn't even get to show them off. But it's these ones. What they are is they're like the ghost women, but instead of holding a knife, they're holding their heads. And they are top #1 priority, must kill above everything else. Because they scream, and it's very loud. But they also have this thing where they grab and hold you in place when their scream goes off. So, very important to stop that, because if you don't, then the ones with the knives will stab you and it does a lot of damage. But here in this chest, you get Executioner's Gloves, which are another hunter tool, like Beast Roar. And protected by this ghost person is the other chest that you can drop down onto. Though, like I said, it's more difficult, and I didn't get it. But you do get the night set, which looks pretty cool, and can be sold for a lot. It's like 30,000 souls, or like 25, something like that. I mean, blood echoes, but it's a lot. But here, there's another gargoyle. If you just walk up to the item, they will drop on your head, so you want to shoot them down or throw like a pebble or something at them. But here, there's a lever that you can pull, and this opens you up to a previous section. This is where we got the Evelyn. And this acts kind of like a shortcut, in the sense that, oh yeah, you can see her breathing there. That's, Anyways, this act's kind of like a shortcut because it allows you to skip that whole upper section. But on top of just being a shortcut, it also is the way you need to go. So it's like a 2-in-1. And here's a blood gem. It's just for blood tinge builds, so if you don't level up blood tinge, not useful, but over here, there's another little skittery guy. And there's the enemy that I said you have to kill. 2 bloodstone chunks. Because if you don't kill them, then the entire time you're attacking the little skittery guy, he will just pelt you with his little blow darts. And that's not very good. And here I realized I can get another weapon upgrade. But I'm not. Because the upcoming boss is generally seen as pretty difficult. And for some people, is even considered to be the most difficult boss, at least in the base game. But it doesn't matter. Like I said, I'm not here to make things easy. For this run, I'm here to make as many bad decisions as possible, and to rely on having this very powerful weapon to carry me through those bad decisions. So we're just gonna continue on. And it may seem like we're not supposed to be here because we took some very precarious drops, but I promise you, we are supposed to be here. And you can actually stand on these and jump onto this. There's no actual point to it, but it is a fun thing you can do if you have enough time. And I might show it off sometime, doing like a video about silly little goofy things you can do. But not right now. Right now, we've got a goal. We're going to head into this boss fight. I'm going to skip the cutscene. I'm not going to do that every time, but at least for this one. This is Martyr Ligarius. He has magic. Magic that you don't really see in Bloodborne. This is something you'd probably see more in Dark Souls. But he's here, he's old, and I'm gonna kill him. Now, while he does have magic, it's mostly a phase 1 thing. And here, he has like an instant explosion attack. Not a bad attack. But I don't know, to me that just feels cheap because it's just an instant explosion that you don't have time to react to. But maybe that's just because I'm slow, which is totally possible. But once he does that, at around 70 HP, you go into phase 2, where he pulls out a sword and becomes much more melee focused. Because he is done with your nonsense. And here, as you can see, he's not really a boss you trade blows with. That won't work. Now, I've heard some people say that he's weak to parrying, which I can definitely see. But there's also some points where you shoot and your bullets just go like above him. And I may have known what that was about in times past. Like there. But I don't remember why that happens, because it only happens sometimes. It seems very strange, but that can make parrying seem risky, at least to me. And so I tend to prefer to go mostly melee against him. But even without parrying too much, I still go for it sometimes, and it works enough to make it worth it. And he goes down. And over here you can get the Crown of Illusions. And as you can see, we're running out of time. So I decided to speedrun this. So you equip the Crown of Illusions, you get a cutscene, which I skipped. And that cutscene opens up this whole section. And there's some stuff that you can do here, and I skipped pretty much all of it.
I claim no subjects, but here lieth our throne. Kneel afore us, or get thee gone.
So off to the right, you can get the unopened summons for a quest.
Visitor, moon-scented hunter. I am Annalise, Queen of Castle Cainhurst. What? Well,
And we're just gonna skip the rest of this dialogue,
now.
but what this does is it gives you the Corruption Oath and another badge, along with a respect gesture.
We await for the.
And I'm going to show what the unopened summons is about at the beginning of the next part. Again, because we're running out of time and I don't want to go over an hour. But real quick, we can upgrade our weapon and I can sell what we got there and show what the whole 2 badges we got were about. So, anything over here? Maybe consumable item, but no armor sets, which is what I care about. So, yeah, I think Numbing Mist or Lead Elixir are new. One of those two. But getting the Crow Hunter badge allows you to buy the Blade of Mercy and the Crow Feather set here. And she uses, I believe, the Hunter Pistol. And the Cainhurst badge allows you to get the Shikage and the Reater Perlosh, however you pronounce that, along with the Evelyn. And then it also allows you to purchase the Cainhurst set. And then for all of the armor sets that we got, selling them, Executioner set is like 3k, Knight set, yeah, like 10, 30, 40, so like 55,000. Like, it's a lot. Crown of Illusions is 35,000. So, yeah, Evelyn is 10,000, Reater Perlosh is 10,000. Like I said, going to Cainhurst, especially if you sell everything, you make bank. You are just rolling in blood echoes. It's amazing. Now again, because of time constraints, because I don't want to go over an hour, I'm not going to show what the unopened summons does, but I'll do that at the beginning of the next part. For now,
Welcome. What?
we can
Very
level up,
well.
and that is a lot of levels. And we're close to another one. Like, that's 6 close to 7. That's very nice. But here we can end it. We went through Nightmare Frontier, getting ourselves the Ailing Loran Chalice, beating Amygdala. And we went through Cainhurst Castle, and beating Martyr Ligarius, and we got the Crow Hunter and Cainhurst badges. So that's 2, like, secret optional areas I feel like that's some pretty good progress today, so, yeah.